Good morning, everybody. It's the end of the week, Saturday of the 32nd week in Ordinary Time. Now, our text today is the third letter of John. It's again all of 15 verses only. Our actual text for the scripture reading at Mass is verses 5 to 8. I'm recommending that I will not read the entire text. I'm recommending you read the 15 verses. So you can also pause the video, read the text. It's 15 verses. So come on, everybody, read the text. I've entitled today's teaching Meeting Rather Than Tweeting. Yeah. So I'm going to explain all the 15 verses to you. Now, I think that this is a very beautiful text to end the week. It has much spiritual meat on it, as they say, meat on the bone, to really enjoy this text. Now, in contrast to the second letter of John, which we studied yesterday, this letter of the elder, which I explained to you yesterday who the elder is. So, this letter of the elder is personal. It is not an exchange between churches, as we saw in 1 John and 2 John. This is a personal letter. Its recipient is a man called Gaius. Now, Gaius was a rather common name in the Roman world. So, therefore, as to who this Gaius is specifically, that we do not know. Also, in the cases of the other two names, and they are quite a bit of tongue twisters because they are all Greek names, there is Diotrephes. You'll see his in verse 9, Diotrephes, and there's Demetrius, whose name is also mentioned in 12. So, who these people really are, we have no clear understanding. Now, the second letter of John and the third letter of John, as I said, are both very brief letters. Yesterday was 13 verses, today is 15 verses. Now, when read today, you'll see that things are not clear, and they almost seem to be at some time in 3rd John a bit cryptically written, especially when the author towards the end of the letter speaks of his face-to-face pending visit with Gaius. You'll see this in verse 14. So perhaps there was an important matter to discuss, and the author thought it best not to create a WhatsApp or a Twitter storm of words. Yeah, as I said in the title, rather than tweeting, he recommended meeting. You know, personal meetings are more effective than thumbing your thoughts and feelings in 280 characters. I've seen so many people end up saying the most nastiest things, and sometimes not nasty, or they don't mean to be nasty, but it sounds nasty because WhatsApp and words are limiting. You're having a problem with someone, please pick up the phone. No matter how articulate your thought may be, words are often limiting, and that's why when I meet people, I like to see their face, because what they might be saying on their face, what they are saying by words in a text message is quite different from what they actually mean, and you look at a person's face and you know much more what they are saying. But coming back to our text, the elder is writing this letter primarily to express his joy on the verbal character report that he has received from some brothers. Now, if you read the RSV, it speaks of these brothers. The word used is some friends. So, the elder has received this verbal report from some friends or some brothers who, though they were strangers, were made welcome by Gaius, and these strangers, these people who were traveling, were floored by Gaius's faith, and also they were very impressed by his sound doctrine. Now, Gaius is a man who walks the talk, because he is referred to as a man who walks in the truth, see verse 3, and as a man who practices love. Now, really what ought to get your eye is a line that is not in the reading of today, but you'll find it in verse 2. And let me draw your attention to it. I was really touched by this line. You know, the elder writing to Gaius says, he says this, he says, "Beloved, I pray that all may go well with you, and that you may be in good health, just as it is well with your soul." I thought this was very interesting. Our daily greeting to just about everyone we meet is, how are you? How are you? And that response to how are you is varied. It can range from health issues to emotional ones. But imagine hitting someone with this question when you meet him in the morning or meet her in the morning, and you look at them and you don't say, how are you? But you say, how is your soul today? Now, I can see the Western world will throw a fit if you start, how is your soul today? They'll throw a fit with accusations of, you're invading my privacy and you're dragging morality into the neighborhood or whatever else they might say. But what's so awful about that question to a fellow Christian, or even more, to ask that question, how's your soul, to some very immoral politicians who seem to want to hit the nuclear button, these days. How's your soul? Because I don't want to know what's wrong with your mind. If your soul is fine, your mind is fine, your actions are fine. If your soul is impure and sinful, then everything else follows. So how is your soul is a question we need to ask people. And I was so struck by that line. I've never seen that before, where he says, beloved, I pray that all may go well with you and that you may be good, in good health, just as it is well with your soul. So let me ask all of you also this question, how is your soul today? Okay, now coming back to our letter. In both letters, the question of Christian hospitality has been raised. Yet in fact, the situation indicated in the two letters seem to be a bit reversed. You remember that yesterday when we did the second letter of John, the elder warns the church not to give hospitality to deceiving teachers. You remember this? I explained it yesterday. But in today's letter, the elder's friends had received hospitality from Gaius. They find themselves, they loved the hospitality they got from Gaius, but they also found themselves rejected and put out of the church by a man who's mentioned in verse 9. His name is Diotrephes, and Diotrephes must have been some local church authority. So that brings us to the two people now referred to in verses 9 to 11. We have heard already of Diotrephes, who may have emerged as a leader of the community, and the accusation against him is not that he is teaching false teaching, but a matter of his refusal to accept the authority of the elder. Diotrephes had what we call an I problem, because we are told in scripture that he likes to read verse 9, he likes to put himself first. Now, perhaps in his bid to establish his supremacy, Diotrephes has also brought false charges against the elder, to which the elder says, I'm going to come there one day and I'm going to have it out with him. That's what he actually suggests. The second person mentioned is a man called Demetrius, and he's mentioned in verse 12. It seems that everyone has testified to Demetrius in favor, and he also seems to have the backing of the elder. Now, perhaps there was some leadership struggle going on in the community. Interestingly, this letter is attributed to John, the beloved disciple, the advocate of love. Now, even the advocate of love sometimes has to reprimand errant brothers. This is also love's task, as we have heard so often from the lips of Jesus himself and also from the teachings of Paul. So with that, we come to the end of just 15 verses of the third letter of John. When we meet on Monday, and I'm dreading this, we will begin for 2 weeks studying the book of Revelation. Yeah, so that's our new challenge. But in any case, I'll see you tomorrow with our 9 o'clock teaching of the Sunday Gospel, and at 4 o'clock with Why Do Catholics. Today, just a big shout out to a young man who I've seen grown up from a little child to the wonderful young man that he is, to Stefan Agia, the son of my dear childhood friends Johan and Nikki Agia, who live in Toronto. Happy birthday, Stefan. I'll never forget that day when you and I went off to Crawford Market looking out for hats. And I must mention this because he was fascinated by hats. He loves hats. And I took him out to Crawford Market, cheapest place in the city. And there were so many hats. And I said, okay, buy whatever you want, my gift. He picked up just one and he said, no, one is good enough. That shows me what a wonderful child you are. God bless you, young man, not a child anymore, a young man. Keep well, Stefan. Happy birthday to you.